Hello, and welcome to the Radio Ventriloquist Enterprises YouTube channel. I am the Radio Ventriloquist, and I want to share with you a little bit, sort of a background and overview of the Mannheim Steamroller Christmas recordings. I first encountered Mannheim Steamroller as a recording group, so to speak, back in 1981 as I was looking to buy my very first, for real, really good stereo system. Was introduced to them, and I really enjoyed their music. I wound up getting a couple of albums, and back then they were very expensive because they were audiophile recordings. So you went to a record store, if you found one, it would cost you $15, easily double what other new recordings would cost, because they were audiophile. They were very clean pressings. They were on, I think, heavier vinyl. But they were excellent. I really enjoyed Mannheim Steamroller. Then the thing was, here's a little bit of background. If you weren't aware of this, we were all familiar with Chip Davis, though most of us didn't know it. May not still know it. Chip Davis was part of the song Convoy. He helped write that from 1975. Big hit. Took a sort of a regional act, C.W. McCall, and made him national at that point. Plugged into the to the CB craze of the mid 70s. Catchy tune, and was real popular at the time. But Chip Davis was one of the minds behind Convoy. And if you listen to any of the old C.W. McCall recordings, if you get past the C.W. McCall style and things like that, pay attention to the music that's underlying sort of the talking nature of German term Sprechstimme. I mean, spoken song kind of thing going on there. You stop and you go, the music's actually pretty good. It's a good group that's backing C.W. McCall up. And there's a whole story behind C.W. McCall. We might go there, but I won't bore you with that right now. I want to get back to the Christmas recordings. So in 1984, coming up on Christmas 1984, I was driving around one night and I heard this song. And it was a version of Silent Night. And I went, gosh, this sounds really familiar, the style of this. And it was, really resonating with me, because I'm going, what group is this? I've never heard this before, but it sounds like, and I thought, it sounds like Mannheim Steamroller. And there at the conclusion of Silent Night, I went, yep, it's Mannheim Steamroller, because they just about duplicated the end of a piece that was included on Mannheim Steamroller 4, their fourth album release. I went, yeah, they've just lifted that little bit right out of another song and stuck it there at the end of Silent Night. So I knew then, even without having heard otherwise, that it was Mannheim Steamroller. So this was released in 1984. Something I read a while back was Chip Davis apparently approached a larger recording label about the possibility of doing Christmas recording a Christmas album. And he was basically sort of told, look, if you do that, you're going to ruin your career. It'll be over for you. That'll be it. That's the nail in the coffin of musicians, is releasing a Christmas album. So they didn't pick it up. So he went back and just did it on his own with American Gramophone, his little label. And what we know is this: Chip Davis and Mannheim Steamroller basically have owned Christmas for about 40 years almost, as far as Christmas music goes. You have heard it, even if you don't know who did it, and I'm sure you probably do, but Mannheim Steamroller. So a few years later, Mannheim Steamroller releases a second album, and it does just like the first one does. It's sort of groundbreaking. It introduces their style to a much broader audience. I don't know what it has. I don't know what kind of impact the Christmas recordings may have had for the sales of the other recordings for Mannheim Steamroller, but I cannot help but think that people who bought these may have gone and looked up other recordings that Mannheim Steamroller would have done. So over time, had those. And at one point in time, yes, I bought these records 1985, just before my wife and I got married. And then when this was released in 1988, of course, had to go on out and get that. And of course, wound up getting the cassette tapes of these. And then eventually, when I got into CDs, got the CDs of them. So at one point in time, I had not only them on LP, but I had them on cassette and I had them on CD. Eventually, we gave the cassette recordings away because, at that time, cassettes were still pretty popular. They were common to find cassette players in cars. I had CDs and LPs. So I thought, hey. So I wound up giving them away. I don't even remember who I gave them to, but I did. So here it is. We've got a 2-album, sequence here, and they continue on with it. Then a few more years pass, and I want to say, okay, 95, we get to this one, the third release in the series. You have basically Mannheim Steamroller Christmas, A Fresh Air Christmas, and then Christmas in the Air. Now, the first one, they're sort of feeling their way, but I still think, arguably, that may be the best of the lot. You might say, well, I don't know, but it's one I keep going back to. This one took what was done there and ran with it. They processed it out, developed it out. You sort of find that the albums sort of follow a little bit of a format. And this one, and I sort of go, this may be the best of the lot, but I think this one's my favorite. This is the one that I wound up going back to time and time and time again. There was a cut on this that was one that was like, I've never heard that one before. Los Peces en el Rio. Really good. Really, really good. So, 95 there, and then somewhere around 2000 or 99, let me look at the back of this. 2001, a fourth one comes out. And just, it's like, okay, they have been on a roll. So you've got 4 Mannheim Steamroller Christmas CDs. And this is sort of what I think of as the core of the Mannheim Steamroller Christmas stuff. And like I said, this one may be my overall favorite. This one, I think, may be the weakest of the sets, but it has a couple of my most favorite cuts. So a wider variety of things that go, I really don't care for that as much, but boy, I really do like that one. And then a fifth one comes along, Christmas Song. A little bit different. It focuses on familiar Christmas songs rather than carols and other Christmas music. This is sort of more contemporary songs, some of which are sung and some of which are just instrumental recordings of. I don't think this one has had the impact that the original 4 had. So you got 5 there that sort of fall in that category. And I know that there were others released that were basically remixes of and sort of compilations of things off of these 4. And this is one of them. This is Celebration. I think this one was done for a, was it a 20th or I think a 20th anniversary recording. They actually went back and remastered some of these. Falling. They remastered some of these because when I listen to them, I go, they have, jiggery-pokeried some of these recordings. They're a little bit different than they were on the original. Not bad, it's just that they went back in the studio and said, let's do some different things with it because you need to make something that you're re-releasing a little bit different. And that's so much easier to do with, modern technology. So that's a good sort of collaborative collection. Then, I guess in the mid-2000s, when was this? I'm trying to look for a date. Around 2010 or so. What you get is this. And this, I really didn't start listening to this till about a year ago. I'd had it for several years. Christmas Symphony. They basically took bits and pieces out of these and they arranged them for symphony orchestra, and went in and sat down with a live orchestra because, face it, a lot of these utilize synthesizer and electronic instruments to cover the bases. You got a lot of real live instruments going on with them, but face it, to accomplish some of the things they wanted to do, they utilized technology and electronics. But this is a live symphony orchestra, and it was really something that when I first bought it, I had my old stereo. I hate to say it, but I look back and go, yeah, it was time for that stereo to go away, because it just never did do much for me. And I realize now it's not because of the recording. It was because what my stereo was able to communicate for me. So suddenly on my new stereo, wow, this was great. It was like, okay, this is fresh. I've heard all of these time and time again, but with this setting, with an orchestra, absolutely wonderful. Liked it a lot. Now, it does have some drawbacks. There's some things I'm going to be nitpicky about. Say, oh, well, this wasn't done quite as well. But it's like, yeah, it's all the familiar stuff, but it's fresh. And then a couple of years later, you get a second one, Symphony 2. So between these two and the original 4, you got a lot of good Mannheim Steamroller Christmas music for you. You've heard it. You cannot help but hear it. Like I say, Chip Davis has owned Christmas music for the past almost 40 years. And over the past 30 years, really, since about the mid-90s, you really begin to hear a lot of Mannheim Steamroller getting played as background music all over the place coming up on Christmas. So yeah, if you ever wondered, well, what was that in particular? It's these things right here. Highly recommend them. So if you don't have them, they're great. They're great. They're wonderful. These again are some of what I would call must-haves for a Christmas music collection. Maybe not, you don't have to get all of them, but if you get 1 or 2 Mannheim Steamroller, CDs or recordings or albums, or if you can find them, cassette tapes, that modern thing. No, we won't go there. But wonderful stuff. And again, for me, it helps plug in the holidays. Holidays are about the music for me. And this is one of the sources of music. So again, Merry Christmas. I hope you have a wonderful and marvelous and happy Christmas. And if you haven't done it yet, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and come back to see me again sometime. Thanks for being here with me today, and we'll talk to you later. Bye.